Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades, I hope you're doing well wherever you are. This is Kenyan Revolutionary for another session. Hold on, later. Just give me a second. Give me a second. Let me fix something. Sorry, guys. I have to fix something real quick.
All right, we're good. We good? We all right? All right. I'm just self-checking myself just to make sure that everything is working. I should have done this before, but sorry about it. I had to fix it live. But anyway, sorry guys. Let me fix this real quick and then we'll figure out. Give me 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Count. 1. Then what's the second? The second? Whatever. All right, that's good. That's good. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, I hope you're doing well. This is Kenyan Revolutionary for another session. Today, we are going to talk about some stuff. We're going to talk about some stuff. But the main meal today, karibu sana Muganda katende kama kawaida. You know the first order of business. So yeah, let's start with the formalities. If this is your first time, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, we talk about Kenyan politics. We talk about world politics as it relates to Kenyan politics, okay? So karibu sana. And we have a topic that this topic is actually related to world politics and, well, politics outside of Kenya. And it has something to do with what's going on in Kenya. The topic, you might be wondering if you're blind. Here it is. You're listening. You're not watching the video. Rigathi Gachagua. Wamunyoro mwenyewe. Rigathi Gachagua. To be the next Kenyan president. Let's talk about it. Is he going to be the next president? Now, the reason why I posed this question is because there are a bunch of NIS people who came in yesterday on my channel while I was live and told me that Rigathi Gachagua is going to be president and I should sit up and get my belt and get ready for a Rigathi Gachagua presidency. Now, on the surface level, now if you're to argue like we argue, okay, if you are to make sense out of it, on the surface level, if you hear that, you'll be like, oh, I know, Rigathi Gachagua can never be the president of Kenya. But hold on. Think about it critically. Start thinking about what's going on. He's not going to be the president because he's chosen or he's picked by the people. He's going to be the president. If he becomes the president, he is going to be the president because the system, the people, the political class of Kenya, the oligarchs in Kenya who want to make sure that their interest is secure, they can only guarantee to do that if they handpick a bunch of individuals within their pool. Okay? People who they entrust that will ensure their interest is secure, whether it's the Kenyatta family and their businesses, whether it's Uhuru Kenyatta Uhuru Kenyatta is part of the Kenyatta family, whether it's Ruto with his businesses, whether it's the Moi family, who do they trust that will, when they become the head of state, will guarantee that their wealth is not messed up with, their business is safe, will continue going on? That is the question, okay? So it is not a matter of who the people think should be best fit, should be the president, okay? So we shall delve into that a little bit. I just want to get to the news of the day because there's so much happening. It's not just Gachagua only, okay? Apparently it's still in Gachagua. I see Annie in the comment section. Eno Muganda. Karibu sana. Nilikataa data NIS kabisa. Kata. Okay? But anyway, nimeparara ka shetani. Nimeparara ka vile Mbadi alikuwa anasema skunk. Siku hizi Mbadi amenona. Mbadi is living the life. Mbadi hata siku hizi anakula sima na fork. Haizi kula mkusima na mkono. Yeah? He's very fat and anyway, that's not the topic I want to talk about. But anyway, tuanze na news ya leo kwa sababu there's so much happening. There's so much news cycle in Kenya is drama, okay? If you elect a clown, they will turn the administration into a circus. And that's what's happening in Kenya with Ruto and the politics of the day. But tuanze, news, let's just go by news kidogo. Alafu tuanze, we deal with this topic here, Rigathi Gachagua and this NIS people who are telling me Rigathi Gachagua is going to be president. I'll tell you why. They might sound so crazy, but it's not out of the realm of the possibilities, okay? So tuanze na hizi news za kawaida alafu tuingie huko. Na nitawaambia kwa nini Rigathi Gachagua can be president. I'll tell you. Nitawaambia he actually can be the president, okay? Not because he's chosen by the people, but because he's chosen by the political oligarchs, corrupt political oligarchs who actually run Kenya, who want to maintain the Western colonialist system of rule where the people lose their sovereign authority power and they rule through their policies that they want implemented through their hand-picked colonial puppets, stooges, i.e. Ruto, Uhuru, Raila, Karua, Kalonzo, Matiangi. You get the drill. We'll get to that. But tuanze na hii news ambayo inafanyika hapa alafu niende nikaeka mafuta kidogo. Naona nimeparara ka shetani. Hata mnionea huruma jamani. Nimeparara ka mbadi before aingie kwa broad base. Tuingie. Meanwhile, hebu mweke mlike na hizo mambo yenu. Are you under duress? I'm not under duress by any means. Niko sawa. Salmi. Sina shida yote. Twende. News ya mambo.
Uhuru Kenyatta has in recent days resurfaced in public, prompting political conversations in what appears to be the clearest indication that he will be a key factor in the 2027 general elections. The former president on Tuesday called for a special sitting of the National Delegates Convention of the former ruling party, Jubilee, to discuss, among other issues, the party's direction in the preparation for the next general election. The move, coupled with several others in the recent past, has put the Jubilee Party leader in sharp focus more than 2 years after leaving office, raising speculations as to his increasingly but busy political calendar. Emmanuel Toh has that report.
Despite retiring from the office of president about 3 years ago, former President Uhuru Kenyatta's political shadow continues to loom large, his rare and occasional appearances stoking speculations within the political circles in the country. And just a day after holding a crucial national executive meeting of the Jubilee Party at the party headquarters here in Nairobi, the Jubilee Party leader has called for a special national delegates convention later in the month. In a notice issued to all the members, Kenyatta gave a 21 days notice for a special national delegates convention to be held at the Jockey Club, Nairobi. The former head of state highlighting 3 key agendas for the meeting, including receiving status report from the National Executive Committee, reviewing, formulating and approving party policies, and considering and approving any other matters. However, the details of the closed-door NEC meeting, which lasted for about 2 hours Tuesday, where President Kenyatta addressed virtually, have remained scanty, with some of the members who attended the meeting telling Citizen TV that the party also discussed its possible flag bearer in the 2027 general polls, details which are contested with a section of those who attended the meeting. The party has been wooing the former Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i to its corner as a possible candidate. However, the party is said to have floated the idea of backing ODM leader Raila Odinga should he sever ties with President William Ruto. The meeting also came only 4 days after Kenyatta had an encounter with his successor, President William Ruto, at State House, Nairobi, on the sidelines of the joint meeting of the East African Community, EAC, and Southern African Development Community, SADC, on the DRC peace process. The two leaders who were seen in high spirits were captured exchanging pleasantry, with President Ruto taking his former boss in a house tour of the refurbished State House. President Kenyatta's private office has also seen high-ranking international guests visit, with Kenyatta holding discussions with the British High Commissioner to Kenya, Neil Wigan, just a week ago. The former head of state had also met President Ruto in December last year at his Ishaweri home in Gatondo, Kiambu County, an engagement which was followed by an appointment of some of Kenyatta's close allies to powerful dockets in the Kenya Kwanza government. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Okay. Aya. Okay, so tuendelee. Kuna ingine pia nataka nionyeshe hapa. So here it is. Let me explain something. Let me explain something. Thank you so much for the hug. Ani hata pia pokea hug. Pokea hug. Naona na mkono kama za inaitwaje scorpion. Naona mkono zangu. Anyway, let me explain something very quickly to everyone so you can get the drift, okay, of where I'm going with this, okay? Listen to me carefully. I want to go back. Haya. Broad base ndio hiyo. Haya. Broad base. Anyway, I don't know why I say that. But anyway, wacha niwaelezee kitu. Nataka tegeni masikio. Tega. Gachagua. Nasikia ground. Okay. DCP. But anyway, listen on every seriousness, on all seriousness, okay? Skia what's happening. Niliwambia, I've been always telling you, nataka niwapatie homework. Go find kuna clip. I always say this. There's a clip of Uhuru Kenyatta was somewhere in Kiambu or Ishaweri or whatever the case. He was drunk, like he was always drunk as a president. And alianza kusema, mimi 10, alafu Ruto 10, alafu Gacha, alafu he stopped himself because he realized that he was going to toboa the siri. Mkae mstari wambe. Ani wacha na vichekesho hapa, utafanya hata sitaendelea. Yeah, so alisema, listen to me, I'll say it again, mtafute hiyo clip. Uhuru said, 10 yangu, alafu 10 ya Ruto, alafu Gacha, then he stopped himself. Now, here is the game plan. Here is the suspected game plan, okay? Nisikieni vizuri, wacha nikunywe kahawa. Mkae mstari wa mbele, mweke like na kila kitu. Here's the game plan. Tuanze na ile game plan ya 2022. Leading up to 2022, after 2017, the handshake, okay? We know what happened in 2017. Uhuru Kenyatta lost. Raila akaenda did what he always does. Akaenda maandamano, declared the people's president, then wanted a handshake. After he got a handshake, showed his middle finger to everyone who supported him. Okay? Not caring who died or whatever the case is. But anyway, so leading up to the 2022 elections, these oligarchs, Uhuru, Ruto, Raila, Karua, Wetangula, Wamalwa, Matiang'i, all these useless bidibodies, these colonial stooges, they had a game plan. Now, they understood one thing. Listen to me very carefully. They understood one thing. Mnanisikia? I hope I'm audible. Audible. They understood one thing, okay? Don't mind. They understood one thing. Ruto was not the people's favorite. People are already tired of Raila Odinga because Raila Odinga was viewed as a betrayer. He betrayed everyone when he went into a handshake with Uhuru. Kumbuka, Uhuru pia watu walikuwa wamechoka na Uhuru, just like you see watu wamechoka na Ruto. Everyone was like, Maliza uende. Uhuru must go. They were screaming that. We remember that. I will remind you. I want to walk to temper step by step. Okay? So they understood that Ruto was not popular. People did not want Ruto. No one really wanted to vote for Ruto. They knew Arap Mashamba, ananyakua hapa, ananyakua pale, whatever the case. You know that. And he was an ICC, one of the ICC suspects that went to Ninio among the Uhuru Kenyatta. So he was not Kenya's favorite, Ninio. But the fact that Raila's staunch supporters were disappointed once he turned his back on everyone and entered into a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, he was seen as the worst of the bunch, of the two, okay? Now, this was why they came up with this narrative. They presented us with a binary choice. Would you rather have the dynasty, watoto wa ninio mababe, wakina mtoto wa Oginga na mtoto wa Kenyatta, ambayo have been ruling us since independence, or let's vote for this blue-eyed boy nani Ruto, ambayo yes is corrupt, ameiba, but yeye ni mtoto wa nobody, so to speak. That way, to lure most Kenyans, majority of Kenyans, to feel some sense or affinities with the fact that Ruto is a son of a nobody. Nobody knew who his father is. Nobody knew who his mother is. Mamake alikuwa si jina kubwa, au babake alikuwa hana jina kubwa kama ya Jomo ama ya Odinga. You understand what I'm saying? So he came and presented himself as hustler. Okay? Mtoto wa maskini hohehahe. So Kenyans could relate with Ruto on that front to that extent. But in reality, Ruto alikuwa muaji, muizi, all those names that you're accusing him of being right now, okay? So those are the two choices that you're presented, okay? Tulikuwa tunaambiwa, karibu sana Joseph Baidas. So tulikuwa tunaambiwa, mnataka dynasty ambayo imewa colonized since 1963, or mnataka mtoto wa maskini hohehahe ambayo has pulled himself up the economic ladder, okay? And now is running for president. And given the two choices, one of the two is most likely going to help you kiuchumi, amalize corruption, kwa sababu yeye ametoka huko chini kama wewe maskini hohehahe ambao unataka kumpigia. You understand? That was what they are painting. This plan was conjured up in Ishaweri. Unasikia? Si ati alikuwa ajui. So anyway, now, how were they going to create a situation where there's a real difference between Raila Odinga and Ruto and Uhuru? They have to fool the public that Uhuru Kenyatta amekosana na Ruto. Why were they doing that? They were doing that in order to, not marginalize, what's the word? Kuleta yo rift, political rift between the faction ya Raila Odinga and Ruto and Uhuru, and the faction ya Nani. But they understood that majority of Kenyans shall always fall for the who? For the underdog on this fight. Because Ruto was the proverbial underdog in this electoral process, electoral battle between Raila Odinga and Ruto. Because Raila Odinga was viewed as msaliti ambayo ali turn his back, akaenda kwa handshake na Ruto, na yeye ni part of dynasty. Amekuanga huko, ni mtoto wa Oginga. He grew up in a red carpet. Ni kama tu Kenyatta ambayo ni mtoto wa Jomo, alizaliwa State House. So that is what they were painting. So watu walikuwa nasema afadhali Ruto ni mtoto wa maskini hohehahe ambayo aliiba, yes, alifanya hizo mambo yote, lakini he worked hard to the position where he found himself there. Little did we know that Ruto is just like them. He was part of the club. So in order to deepen that political rift, they have to come up with a plan ya kudanganya wa Kenya to present themselves as Ruto. Kenyatta is now mistreating Ruto. Hawasikizani na Ruto, to a point where anamkick out huko State House, mara anamstopisha siende, he cannot travel without niyo ya Matiangi, and Kenyatta brought Raila Odinga closer. It was all for public consumption. Unakumbuka ile meeting ilikuwa inafanyika huko ninio? Meeting ile ya Bomas hapo. Remember when Raila Odinga was laughing with Uhuru and Ruto alikuwa anajifanya ati amekasirika na anaangalia hivi. And it made a lot of noise. These people are actors. That was meant to be. They were doing that so they knew Magazeti, the Githeri media, which they own, shall point that out and make it the headline. The point was to actually illuminate the difference between Kenyatta and Ruto. They didn't want anyone to suspect that this is a fake beef. That's why I'm saying, really, listen to me. Unafikiri Ruto angeenda Ishaweri atembelee Kenyatta baada ya Kenyatta kumfanya vile alimfanya? If it was real, unafikiri Ruto angeenda State House kumsalimia Ruto vile alienda akamsalimia, wakicheka, wana high five each other? Do you think, does this make sense to you? Now listen to me. This is where it comes. Now, so listen to me very closely. Listen very clearly for me. Tegeni masikio. Yeah? Central casting unit in it. Yeah, yes. Now listen. So this is the same play that they're using. Okay? Wanna create. Ukijiuliza, what made Ruto and Kenyatta walikosania nini? Mpaka saizi you can't really pinpoint what they really were mad at. Okay? Wanakuwa nakosania nini. But let's go to now the same script that is being presented to us. All of a sudden, okay? All of a sudden, Ruto wants to impeach Gachagua. Gachagua alifanya nini? Yes, Gachagua was saying mrima. But is that an impeachable offense? We know the whole process, and I've been saying this 1,000 times. For the zenith time, I'll say it again. The whole process of impeaching Gachagua was done purposely, deliberately, and constitutionally, so that it can bring favor and pity to Gachagua. Draw people to feel sorry for Gachagua. Ndio watu waanze do what? To shift them to see that ananyanyaswa. The same empathy that we had for Ruto when Uhuru Kenyatta was so-called mistreating him after the second term. That is the same script they are using. They are faking this beef. They are faking that Ruto now is after Gachagua. He doesn't want Gachagua. He has replaced Gachagua. Gachagua is a bad guy. Gachagua and they're doing it unconstitutionally. Ndio watu wakasirike na Ruto waanze feel sorry and empathy towards Gachagua because they are preparing the ground for a Gachagua presidency. Unasikia? Na wanaipeleka hivi. Ngoja kidogo. Angalia this news clip alafu tuendelee. Mchukue break kidogo. Iwekeni like kabla tukiendelea mbele na mkae mstari wa mbele tafadhali. I want to explain to you. This is the same script. The president anakosana na deputy wake, then the deputy wake anapata empathy. I won't be surprised former deputy now, or I still think he's the deputy. Gachagua akirudi, watampeleka jela. Just to up the political temperature to win Gachagua to get more uruma so that people can be like, hey, you know what, Gachagua ananyanyaswa. Gachagua is the truthful man. Unaona na expose Ruto vile anasema Ruto alikuwa anaua Orengo. Ruto anasijui amechukua Kikuyu. Ruto sijui is doing this, is planning to do this. That is the same play they use because this is how they want to transfer the perceived consent of the people of Kenya to feel sorry for Gachagua so that Gachagua can be the next president. Pay attention to what Gachagua said today. Anyway, angalieni hapa kidogo. Nataka mkae mstari wa mbele. Finyeni like hapo, mkae mstari wa mbele. Nakuja. Anasema ngoja kidogo. Ngoja kidogo nakuja huko. Nakuja huko gani? Ngoja. Tulia. Please. Tuko na wewe. Bumper kwa bumper.
Of Kenya's non-NATO ally status. Speaking during a media roundtable engagement in the United States of America tour in Kansas, the DCP party leader says there is legitimate need for America to investigate cases of police brutality, abductions, torture, murder, and extrajudicial killings under the Kenya Kwanza regime, as well as President William Ruto's association with blacklisted organizations by America in the region. Seth Olale has the details of that report.
In the affirmative.
The move by the United States Congress to consider reviewing Kenya's designation as a major non-NATO ally has drawn support from ousted former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Speaking Speaking during a media roundtable engagement in his United States of America tour in Kansas, Gachagua said the move was long overdue.
And I'm very excited that yesterday, in the Senate, the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee tabled a motion for the American legislative arm to review the status of Kenya as a non-NATO ally because of violation of human rights, because of abductions, extrajudicial killings.
The Democracy for the Citizens Party leader is urging Kenyans living in the U.S. to avail to the U.S. Congress sufficient grounds for U.S. review of Kenya's designation as a major non-NATO ally.
I want to appeal to the people of Kenya, lobby their senators and their congressmen, so that they can know exactly what is happening in Kenya, so that when this particular motion comes up for discussion, there is support from the senators here in the United States, because Kenyans here are quite informed as to what is going on back home.
The former DP calling on U.S. President Donald Trump to fill in the vacant U.S. ambassadorial slot in Kenya to monitor alleged injustices being committed by President Ruto's administration.
I want to appeal to the people of Kenya living here and working here in the United States to take time to lobby their senators and their congressmen, so that they can know exactly what is happening in Kenya, so that when this particular motion comes up for discussion, there is support from the senators here in the United States, because Kenyans here are quite informed as to what is going on back home.
The former DP, who accused the ruling regime of using the criminal justice system to silence president, he will establish an inquiry into the Gen Z killings, targeting police officers accused of perpetrating abductions and killings of protesters.
Let me tell officers commanding police stations, officers commanding police divisions, all the atrocities against the people of Kenya that are being committed within your jurisdiction, you will have to answer it one day.
The DCP leader, who has been on a month-long tour of the U.S., announcing that his first stop upon returning home will be holding rallies in Kisii, Nyamira, South Nyanza, and Bomet. Seth Olale,
Aya. So, anyway, Gachagua was in Kansas apparently. By the way, kama mjui, Kansas is not well known for, but Mutata was okay. Kansas is heavily populated by Wakamba wako wengi Kansas. I told you yesterday there are different states with distinct number of Kenyan tribes. Okay, like Minnesota wa Kisii, Wakikuyu wako Seattle, Washington na California na Boston, Wajaluo New York, New Jersey, Texas, Wakamba, Kansas, okay, na kadhalika. Now, let me tell you something. What is Gachagua doing in the United States of America? What is he doing there? What is he doing? What is his tour about? Okay, number one, he's looking for funds for his campaign. Of course, he said that in his an elective seat, especially the presidential seat, you need money, okay? So and was soliciting for funds, okay? That's perfectly fine. Yes, Yoshida. But there's always something that I mentioned here. Every presidential candidate wa Kenya, they always have to go to two places, two countries that they have to go. Mpaka waende wa Amerikani na waende Chatham. Inaitwa Chathouse ama Chatham in London. Hapo Buckingham Palace hapo kidogo, hapo Oxford hapo karibu huko. Yeah, nyinyi mtu wale watu wameishi ni UK, tafadhali please educate me on that. Hiyo hall hiyo ambao wanaongeanga. Kebake did that, Raila did that, Kalonzo did that, Uhuru did that, Nani did that. Of course, Gachagua may not go and give a speech, maybe not, because he lacks that oratory prose. And he's not eloquent, so to speak. Gachagua ni mtu wa mtaa, unaona? Yani ile kizungu yake ni sawa, ile anaweza kutoka point A to point B and makes his point, but as far as trying to address an intellectual audience, he kind of look out. Yeah, it won't look good, but he can express himself. He can communicate. That's not a problem if you're a candidate. Okay, it's a problem when you're sitting in a academy. You're dealing with the academics. Wamekaa hapo na kuangalia, wanasikia vile una reason and what you're saying, and they'll question you on your history, how much you've been involved with this Ruto government, and so forth, and debate you. Okay, you saw that young lady who asked a simple question, and it almost destroyed the whole Gachagua's campaign. Okay, what I'm trying to say here, if you are following closely, the steps that a colonial puppet usually takes to become the next leader, Gachagua is following them to the T. I gave you the example of how Ruto and Uhuru faked that beef that they had at wamekosana in order to win sympathy from the people of Kenya. Ruto, okay, ndio watu walienda 2022 akapata votes, sympathy votes. We knew he was a thief. We knew he was a killer. We knew ni mtu ambayo is corrupt to the core. Akijifanya ati ni mtu anaomba. We knew that. But we were programmed to believe through this narrative ya dynasty na hustler that, you know what, Ruto ni mwizi mdogo. Our dynasty, they are where they are because of their last name, which made sense to the common man. Now, this is now what the narrative is. Ruto ni mchinjaji. Ruto ameharibu uchumi. Ruto one term. Ruto, no substance, but not really, okay, no substance as to what Gachagua is really about, because it is mainly an anti-Ruto campaign. But it's not what can I offer to Kenyans in the future when I become president. You understand what I'm saying? But we are being swept by the wave of anti-Rutoism to the point where some of us are arguing anybody against Ruto is okay. Hata shetani ni afadhali kuliko Ruto, as long as Ruto aondoke. And that's where we miss the boat. Ndio maana ulisikia Sifuna akisema, if it takes Matiang'i, who has skeletons, to remove Ruto, I'm okay with that. Which is a very troubling sentence coming from Senator Nani, that is super senator. They call him super senator. There's not a super about him. He's just another opportunist trying to save his political career by pretending that now he's tired with ODM, but he's still there, but he still wants to. Just a bunch of nonsense. But what I'm saying is this. Yes, Gachagua is a thief. We know that, okay? What I'm saying is that this is uko milioni hapa kwa comment section. Ani naona unapigana huko so nini hapo comment section, lakini unapigana na Ibra. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this, okay? It is nothing but the same script. It's the same script. It's the same script. Okay? Wakosane, waoneane. Because listen to me. Listen, if you think these people really need enemies, why have they not corrected the mistakes by the previous president? Why has Ruto not corrected the mistakes, the atrocities ambazo zilifanyika before aingie kwa serikali? Alisema corruption atamaliza. Alisema ati extrajudicial killings atamaliza. Anaendeleza. Uchumi, loans, kila kitu. Extension. And to make it worse, sasa hata wanatuonyesha wazi wazi ni marafiki. And they don't care. And that's the same thing now. Gachagua anatuambia Ruto ni mwizi. If you want to know that this is a fake beef, I usually give you the example. When Miguna was attacking the political class, okay? Na alikuwa napata Githeri media had no option but to cover him because he was making news everywhere. Okay? What did they do? Walimshika with trumped up charges, wakamdunga shindano na wakamuondoa Kenya. Na vile alirudi, they blackballed him. Waliambia wana news zote don't host that person. Host Ruto Miguna. Don't give him airtime. Because why? He was exposing the corrupt political elites of Kenya. Now, consider what Gachagua has been saying. Serious charges against Ruto. He's claiming that Ruto anatuma silaha huko kwa RSF. Anasema Ruto anaiba pesa ya e-citizen. Anaiba na anaua vijana wa Kenya. You know, those are serious charges that you can take someone to court. Knowing Ruto or any government of Kenya, including Ruto's government, uliona Ojwang aliandika tu kaninio, aliandika tu ka article. What happened to him? Ojwang aliwawa. Gachagua is saying all these wonderful things. I'm not saying wonderful as being positive, but vitu vya hajabu, negative about Ruto. Ruto is not doing anything. Not because Ruto is scared that it's due when you akishika Gachagua, Mount Kenya will erupt. It will not erupt. Watu watapiga makelele hapo alafu nini? That's why I'm telling you, this is ni mchezo wa town. It is to prepare you for the sympathy vote. That's why I'm saying, nani akirudi Kenya, they'll even try to arrest him to convince you that Ruto is actually having a real beef with Gachagua, but the truth is not. That is how they've started the process of transitioning, passing that baton from Ruto's administration to Gachagua, who is part of the political corrupt oligarchs of Kenya. Now, it might not be even in 2027 that Gachagua become president, but by 2027, Gachagua is going to be built up by this Githeri media to convince you that he is the man to take over the mantle in 2032 when Ruto is out. Inapangwangwa saizi. Ruto alianza si unakumbuka vile Ruto alianza kujipanga 2017 vile Raila alishikana na Uhuru. Then he started to do what? Alianza kumangamanga, kutangatanga, tangatanga versus kieleweke. Si unakumbuka? They knew what they were doing. Hiyo kutangatanga yake na hizo hizo matamshi yake ambayo alikuwa anaondoa akiwa katika campaign trail were being crystallized in your minds. Dynasty versus sasa tunaambiwa one term, no term or whatever, cousins, sijui nini, and they're sticking, they're programming you pole pole to accept. It is in your subconscious. So Ruto will be viewed in 2027 as the evil man who forced and imposed himself on Kenyan people, who is detested by every citizen of Kenya. And tutaambiwa tuvumilie tu amalize vile tuliambiwa tuvumilie tu Uhuru amalize. Meanwhile, Gachagua will be positioned and presented by the Githeri media as the man to take down Ruto. Nobody else can take out Ruto. Now, the question is, what is Gachagua doing in the US? Amekaa hapo karibu, it's going on 1 month now. Unafikiri anafanya nini? Unafikiri anafanya nini besides kuomba pesa na kutembea tembea huko akikutana na Wakenya fulani? What do you think he's doing? Enda Langley, Virginia. Umejua Langley, Virginia? Hebu Google Langley, Virginia na uniambia kuna ofisi gani ukuanga huko hivyo. Hapo. Hao ndio watu ambao wana deal na Gachagua saa hizi. Anapewa marching orders. Unajua vile utakuwa sasa? Kwa sababu, listen, most of this colonial stooges, puppets, they get money from George Soros. George Soros, we know, is kwa hiyo group ya CIA, okay? Ile pesa ilikuwa ya ninio aid, ilikuwa inaitwaje aid ambayo Trump aliikata. They are preparing Gachagua to be the next. Na ile kitu ilishapangwa kitambo. Si ile, ndio maana niliwapatia example. Go find that clip that Uhuru Kenyatta was drunk and started say 10 yangu, 10 ya Ruto, alafu alafu he stop himself. Ndio maana when this NIS people come here in the chat and say Gachagua is going to the president, do not laugh at them. Hii kitu imepangwa. Now, I want to be very clear. Gachagua will not be voted by the Kenyan people. Gachagua will be selected. Just like Ruto was, just like Uhuru was, just like Kibaki. Well, Kibaki won in 2002. I'll give Kibaki 2002. Just like Moi was by the Reagan administration. Just like Kenyatta was installed there by the British MI6. USA. Thank you very much, Annie. Hapo. Alama tatu kwa Annie mara moja. Mpatieni alama tatu. You understand? Gachagua, they're preparing him. Okay? Now, Ruto, here is the version that people are saying now. Watu wanasema Ruto amechoka na colonial masters. Why? That's why he's looking at China. He doesn't care anymore because amejua his term is almost, anamaliza. Ako ile amalize. Ndio maana maybe anashikana na China na hii mambo ya ninio NATO. Though like I said yesterday, the Congress, whatever the case is, US Senate, whatever, voting to remove Kenya as a non-NATO ally is inconsequential in the larger sense, the larger picture. It doesn't mean anything. Whether Kenya was an ally or not doesn't really matter, because when push comes to shove, if the US wants to do something and to use Kenyan army to do their dirt, they will not say no. That is just understood, because we are colonized still under the British. For those of you who don't know, the British are still ruling supreme, and they're ruling the United States of America. They're ruling Kenya, all these Commonwealth nations, because they are part of the Roman system, Roman Empire. Roman Empire never died. Hao ndio wanaitwa the Vatican. Okay? The Vatican. Kumbuka, they changed what's the name of that emperor that changed and called himself the Pope? Okay? And that's where they wakaanza hii mambo ya ninio, they started Islam and all this nonsense. They still rule the world through this government, the world governments, okay? Through the British throne. And that's why you see the British always have. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. Hatutaingia saizi. Hiyo ni topic ya ile advanced class. Si watu ambao wanakuja hapa ku scream one time. Hiyo sio yenu. Hiyo muende ile class nyingine huko kwa nani? Kwa yule rafiki yenu ambaye anaendanga 15 hours kwa live. Hiyo mtaenda mmalize huko. Hapa hiyo ni advanced class. Hiyo siku mnakuja na kitabu na ninio tutaichambua hiyo siku. But anyway, here it is, another ninio. Na mkae mstari wa mbele vile nawaambia. Tuende mstari wa mbele. Ndio hiyo sasa tunakuja sasa hiyo wengine. Haya, Ruto anashikana na Wachina. Haya ndio hiyo.
Tonight, we begin with President William Ruto's unapologetic response to Washington, D.C.'s move to reevaluate relations with Kenya. In what could signal the brewing diplomatic standoff, the head of state insisted that Nairobi's foreign policy is guided solely by its economic interests, firmly defending its growing ties with Beijing. The head of state declared Kenya will not turn back from China or the East, even as the US Congress pushes for a review of Nairobi's links with China, Russia, and the Islamic Republic of Iran. Stephen Leto reports on the president's strong words and what they mean for Kenya's global alliances.
President William Ruto's stinging response to the U.S. proposed amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act has sparked yet another diplomatic row between Nairobi and Washington. President Ruto, while addressing an investment roundtable, defended Kenya's relation with China that is now at the center of an impending assessment to inform if Kenya will lose its status as a major non-NATO ally.
Some of our friends are complaining that we are doing too much trade with China. Honestly, I mean, when I sat with President Xi, I had a very candid conversation. And I told him that Kenya is importing 600 billion of products from China. Yet we are only exporting 5%, according to Lee. That trade imbalance is serious.
President Ruto, during his tour of Beijing, inked multi-billion shillings investments agreements, and now the United States wants an assessment of the trade and investment relationship of Kenya and the People's Republic of China, including its participation in the Belt and Road Initiative and bilateral debt and commercial ties. President Ruto termed the People's Republic of China as a better ally from whom Kenya is making major business breakthrough.
They have agreed to a reciprocal arrangement between Kenya and China. They have agreed to remove all the tariffs on our tea, on our coffee, on our avocado, and all other agricultural exports.
According to President Ruto, Kenya is not shaken with the review of its status, affirming Kenya's bid to diversify its international markets.
We are progressing conversations with India. We haven't quite had a breakthrough with India. We haven't quite, we are very good with where we are with Turkey and Canada.
National Assembly's Chair for Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee, Nelson Koech, has written to his counterpart, U.S. Senator Jim Risch, who chairs the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee, to reconsider the proposed amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act for the fiscal year 2026 in the best interest of Kenya and the United States. It further notes that it is worth noting that the proposed amendment does not call for automatic review of Kenya's status, but for an assessment to be done and tabled in U.S. Congress for final decision. And as things stand, there is no need to preempt the possible outcome of U.S. legislative process with premature speculations. End quote. According to the Foreign Relations Committee, even if it comes to assessment of Kenya's status as proposed in the amendment, Kenya will participate in the assessment process to build a crucial and fruitful engagement for both Kenya and the United States to enhance and deepen their diplomatic relations. Stephen.
This week, we're
All right. So, ndio hiyo. Unaona, people are looking at that's matamshi ya Ruto. Hold on, guys. So that is the whole Ruto's reaffirming of his possible trade deal with China is seen as a response to what the US is doing, which is probably they're going to vote Kenya out of this title, non-NATO ally, which I don't really get the whole thing, because Kenya is not a NATO, cannot be part of NATO, but they were allies of the NATO people, I guess, whatever the case is, which does not mean much in the grand scheme of things, but it is what it is. People are looking at it as a blow on Ruto's administration. Now, Ruto's reaffirming his position regarding his pending trade deals with China is viewed as a retaliatory strike, or to the US for embarrassing him, basically. So he's saying, okay, you guys want to do that? I'll time to China then, because I don't really care. Okay. So now, what I'm trying to say is this. Now, if the relationship with between the US and the Ruto's administration is gone sour, then Rigathi seems to be the darling here, because he even re-emphasized, if you remember the clip that I played, that propaganda hashtag. Yeah. Anyway, Rigathi is seen as the person, or that's kind of the perception. Gachagua has been in the US for the past almost a month now, 2 weeks now, going 3. And he might be seen as now he might be the darling of the US, okay? Especially the fact that he's a demagogue. He has a fanatic following from Central Province, some parts of Central Province, may I say. So he's looked at somebody who maybe the US might use to replace Ruto, okay? That's what maybe the general perception. Some people are coming up with that theory. I'm not quite buying it, but it's a possibility. It's not out of the realms of possibility. Now, with regards to this hashtag, Gachagua arrested in America, what is it about? I don't know what it is about. Alikuwa arrested. I don't know what's going on. Again, a very short ninio. I know I'm Nangusha is a video, but I just want to. I'm showing you what is happening. This is why some people are convinced that maybe the colonial puppets are done with Ruto because of his reckless, wanton, corrupt behavior. Okay, especially with the RSF thing. I think the RSF guys are being are supported by UAE and to some extent Russians. Okay, because they sell them gold or whatever the case is. There's a gold deal that happened in Sudan. And the Southern Sudan part, or whatever the case, the other general, is it Sudan? Not Southern Sudan, Sudan, okay? There's 2 generals there. The RSF guy, who's a criminal, and I don't know if I think he's linked with the UAE and Russians in the gold deal, okay? That's why he's kind of relevant running around. Then there's another general who's like kind of being controlled by US. Somebody, anisaidie kwa chat hapo. I haven't read much about the Sudanese thing for quite a while now, but somebody who now knows the intricate details about the politics in Sudan, please help me on the chat, okay? But I know the Russians are involved and the UAE are involved. I don't know if it's with the RSF or whatever the case is, but the RSF are anti-US. That's much I know, okay? They're not working with the US. So the fact that Ruto might be implicated in this arms deal with the RSF, that might basically, alienate him or destroy his relationship with the US, or they might look at him like somebody who is not to be trusted. And that might explain why maybe the US might be bringing Gachagua closer, and maybe they might sponsor, pay, assist him for a regime change in maybe 2027, maybe before that, maybe the next election. You never know. We read about the coup d'etats that have been happening in 1950s and 60s in Southern America and in Africa, okay, Central Africa. We know about how they carry out their business, okay? They can just prop up a leader, to use somebody like Boniface Mwangi and Martha Karua, the George Soros handout recipients, to stir up some shit, talk about, whatever is going wrong, and, pick a battle, okay? You can always, yes. So that's why I'm saying it will be silly to dismiss this whole idea of Rigathi Gachagua becoming the president of Kenya. Now, if you're looking at it from the standpoint of a revolutionary, someone who wants to overhaul the whole system, Rigathi Gachagua is not a revolutionary, is not a patriot, is not a hero by any stretch of imagination. He's not what Kenya needs. He's not good for Kenya. Okay? We don't want him. We want to entertain the idea of Rigathi Gachagua. Okay? But if you're going to look at it in a real Kenyan political sphere, politics that is greatly influenced by the West, the British and the Americans, then it's not far-fetched. It's a real possibility. God forbid it doesn't happen. Okay, I would like to see Ruto out, but I don't want to see a Matiang'i or Gachagua in there. God forbid. God forbid. But what seems to be happening, geopolitics, yes, thank you. But what seems to be most likely to happen, of course, Ruto is not going to sit pretty and wait for his administration to be overthrown. He will stand his ground. And he knows this. That's why you saw Musalia Mudavadi say what he said. Here it is. Maybe he might seek help from the Chinese. I don't know. Chinese, they generally don't like meddling into people's African business as far as using their army. They use mercenaries like they do in Congo, but rarely do they do that. They're the businessmen. They come in and say, "Hey, we'll build you bridges. We don't care about your human rights. If you want to kill 1 million people, we don't care. Just do a deal with us. We'll control we'll build you bridges and we'll control your borders and your not harbor. What do you call it? Like ports. We'll control your ports for the next 100 years, 30 years, whatever the case, like they did in Zambia and Zimbabwe, whatever the case is. Okay, so that's what's new. That's what I'm looking at. Now, here's another. It's a shorter clip. It's a shorter clip. I know you're tired of clips, but I have to play clips so you can see what's actually happening between these two factions. Like I said, I personally don't think the beef between Rigathi Gachagua and Ruto is real. Okay, I don't think so. Okay, because if it was real, Rigathi Gachagua will probably be dead or in jail. I mean, Orengo just spoke against the blood-based government. Look at where he is. Somewhere they're saying he's in the US, in some whatever, receiving treatment. We don't know. We don't know where Orengo is. Can somebody find Minimo Orengo? Where is Orengo? Somebody find Orengo, okay? So here it is. Very short one, very quickly. We'll see what this Nenio was saying. Here it is. This is Ruto, the president. Relax. Here it is. We have to play it. I'm sorry.
We have concluded the high-level conversation with China. They have agreed to a reciprocal arrangement between Kenya and China. They have agreed to remove all the tariffs on our tea, on our coffee, on our avocado, and all other agricultural exports. That, I think, is a major breakthrough for us. We are now finalizing the bilateral instruments, and Lee can give us some progress report on that, so that in the next couple of months, we should be able to take advantage of that huge market. It's partly why I have a bit of a problem with some of our friends, but it is what I must do for Kenya. It's in the best interest of Kenya that we get into this market. Some of our friends are complaining that we are doing too much trade with China. Honestly, I mean, when I sat with President Xi, I had a very candid conversation, and I told him that Kenya is importing 600 billion of products from China. Yet we are only exporting maybe 300 or 5%, according to Lee. That trade imbalance is serious. And that is the reason why they have opened up their market for our agricultural products. And that is good for Kenya, and that's the right thing to do as somebody who was sent by the private sector to go and negotiate those markets. I thought you gave me instructions to go and negotiate for this one.
We did. We did. And you did a good job at that. So
yeah.
Very great.
So we are progressing conversations with India. We haven't quite had a breakthrough with India. We haven't quite, we are very good with where we are with Turkey and Canada. And so these are the markets.
So Ruto is giving a glimpse of the back end discussions that usually happen when you're a colonial stooge. He's saying that some of our friends are complaining that we are doing a lot of business with China. Obviously, he's referring to the US because, like I said, if you're going to take these loans from IMF, World Bank, all these organizations that are tied in with big multinational corporations, the Vanguard, the BlackRock, Coca-Cola, Shell, BP, ExxonMobil, if you're going to take loans from IMF and World Bank, you have to take your orders from them. They tell you who you can deal with, who you can trade with, what kind of trade deals you're supposed to get into. And there are some people who you are not allowed to do trade with. So here he's saying that, some of their friends, some of his friends, Kenyan friends, he's basically referring to the US and probably UK, are not happy by the fact that Ruto wants to do more business with China. Of course, China is really, really became a superpower basically by, not only pulling themselves up through production and exportation worldwide, okay? And they need raw materials. So Africa is really, really important. I mean, Africa has been the main continent that have been looted, the extraction of raw materials that were used to build Europe, to build America, to build China, okay? It's there, just go look at Congo, the richest country in the world, as far as raw materials is concerned. There's everyone there, Canadians, US, Russians, Chinese, everyone is there. They have their own sectors, okay? So, that's how they kind of lock deals. When these colonialists, these Brits and the US, they come in and they give you these loans, they actually force you they make you, take these loans. They convince you always, when you take these loans, they tell you, hey, you can't do business or sell your oil to Russia or China or whatever the case is. So maybe, and this is speculation on my part, given the fact that, okay, the US now wants to, now with the new administration led by Trump, is they're thinking, well, they're thinking of, getting off this whole NATO ally bullcrap. Ruto feels like his buddy is gone, Biden is gone, so he feels like he has no relationship with Trump, and he feels like he can turn to the Chinese for help if he needs any kind of trade deals or whatever the case is, in violation of the type of rules that the economic hitmen would give them. Now, if he continues this way, we know what will happen. They'll either sponsor a coup d'etat, military coup d'etat, or a popular revolution, or a change of guard through rigging or whatever the case is, or even a political assassination. I don't think it will get that far because Ruto wants to live and he has a lot of stolen loot that he would like to enjoy. So I think he will play ball. That's why I'm saying this whole brouhaha, it's a good theory. It sounds reasonable. The theory of Gachagua being warming up to the Americans and Ruto warming up to the Chinese. It's a good theory. But to me, I think Gachagua is the man who will be selected. Notice I say selected, not elected, selected to take over the mantle probably in 2032. Okay? Because 2027 is going to be messy. If we are still sitting around with our arms folded, okay, waiting to take out through the ballot box in 2027, I'm telling you, enda upige kura na mkono moja na ubebe panga na mkono wengine. I'm not advocating for violence, but that's possibly what's going to happen because there will be tribal clashes. Because already we can see the nonsense that's coming on. Oh, nyinyi wa watu wa huku wa. But yeah, Annie's saying I might be wrong, but nah, hatatokea. I think Annie is referring to Orengo. Orengo might be done for. I don't know. It's a very weird. What wanauliza, and Orengo hasn't made a video, hasn't posted anything. Like you say, the family members haven't come out and to a statement where he is or he possibly is. So that's worrying. Maybe walifanya ile kitu. I don't know. Maybe I mean, is he dead? Is Orengo alive? That's the next question we should be asking. Is Orengo dead or alive? At least hata kama ako US, mtu atupatie update, okay? Because obviously if they took him to the US, somebody from his family knew that, if that's the case, okay? Will that somebody please tell us and to give us some kind of, peace of mind? We want to know where Orengo is. So maybe amekufa, but they want to announce it at the right time so that people are suspicious ama tusikuwa na kamzozo. Because, if they announce that Orengo is dead right now, CIA might go up the smoke. We might not have peace for the next, I don't know what. It might, and maybe it might be the death of Orengo can be the death of ODM as you know it. Because some people even within ODM will say, no, you guys have gone too far. This guy was not supposed to be killed. Nyinyi mmezidi. And you're still in this broad base? Oh, hell no. We are getting, so we never know. You never know. 2-term ni kidogo. 4-term will be great for Kenya. Tupate adabu. And you're not serious. Wazungu warudi Kenya, we need to be colonized properly. I know you're being facetious, but it's funny nevertheless. Now, what else? ODM walitoa statement. I don't know what their statement was all about, but by the way, I didn't report on this e-citizen power route. Mnataka kuisikia? Because I never talked about it. Somebody might talk about it. Before I wrap up about Gachagua being president. Like I said, for somebody who's a revolutionary, who considers himself a revolutionary, Gachagua is a disaster. But it is not out of the realm of possibility for Gachagua to become
irregular transactions worth 11. Also tonight, some shocking revelations of massive looting on the government's digital payment platform, e-Citizen. The Auditor General, Nancy Gathungu, has flagged irregular transactions worth 11 billion shillings, warning that the system exposed public funds to fraud, misappropriation, and revenue leakages. Members of the National Assembly's Public Accounts Committee are now demanding an immediate shutdown of the platform, terming it a, quote, crime scene of monumental proportions. Emmanuel Toh was in Parliament and filed this report.
A special audit of the government's digital payments platform, e-Citizen, has lifted the lid on alleged rot in its operations, exposing irregular and unexplained transactions that could cost taxpayers about 11 billion shillings. Shadowy individuals linked to the platform are at the center of the controversy.
Chair, I'm Deputy Auditor General. Yes.
The damning report tabled before the National Assembly's Public Accounts Committee Tuesday reveals that 7 billion shillings is being held improperly in collection and settlement accounts of service providers. The Auditor General warns that the service providers could be utilizing the funds at the expense of government service delivery. Another 2.5 billion shillings from the e-Citizen platform was also unaccounted for. The report stating that unaccounted receipts were due to partial payments, erroneous payments, and duplicate payments. This now revealing a lack of revenue traceability and accountability, which could lead to misappropriation and fraud. Most baffling, however, was the unauthorized transfer of 127 million shillings from the 222 paybill account to private individuals in a single day. Audit documents reveal that 4 such transactions were executed on January 25th, 2024.
For the 2 private entities that had been paid 127 million was under Wandabo Associates Limited, 63 million, and Gold Rock Capital Limited, also 63. The money was in equal.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, I would like to go on, but this is a subject for another day. The main focus today was about Gachagua and the possibility of him becoming president. Like I said, if the Kenyan people stand up, there's no reason to have these recycled, corrupt political elites, oligarchs of Kenya to continue ruling us. But by the look of things, I told you, I mentioned this. One time, Uhuru was drunk and made some startling pronouncements saying that he will finish his 10 years of rule. Then Ruto will take over for 10 years. Then he said, Gacha. Then he stopped himself because it was as if he was not supposed to reveal that then. Now, we have people who are coming up, people who are associated with NIS, who came out yesterday telling us that they are confident that Rigathi Gachagua is going to be the next president. Now, on the surface level, it does not make sense. Gachagua is a tribalist demagogue that has nothing to offer Kenyans. But if you really look keenly, this guy is making some moves. His visit in the US is kind of suspicious. We are not sure if he's just getting money from his supporters in US or maybe possibly Langley, Virginia. You figure out who the kind of people who he might be receiving money from, okay? And he's very vocal about this whole thing, you know, supporting this whole Ruto being, you know, Kenyan, you know, not being the non-ally stuff, even though I don't think it's a huge statement. But you can see, to me, this is a game that is being played, the same script that was written by the same people who wrote the Ruto versus Uhuru beef leading up to 2022. Now they are writing Ruto versus Gachagua, because if you look at the reason why Gachagua was impeached, there was really no reason. I mean, we saw how Mutuse was struggling to make a case, okay? The process itself was unconstitutional, but it stands, okay? Because his case is still stalling at the courts and so forth, and he hasn't been arrested. His, you know, statements, which are pretty damning evidence of Ruto committing crime, basically, and no consequence whatsoever to Rigathi Gachagua. No jail time, no lawsuits or anything, okay? He's just telling us about stories about him being followed around. Ruto wants him dead and this. And people are lapping this up. It's as if they're programming you to be prepared, to feel sorry for Gachagua, okay? That way, when he starts running for president, he shall be presented by the media as this guy who's the real opposition to this evil man who has brought down Kenya to its knees. And then we shall give him a sympathy vote the same way we did with Ruto in 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to buy this. I hope Gen Zs rise up again and do a total overhaul through a people's revolution. Take out, exercise the first article of the Constitution, which gives power to the people. People are the sovereigns, but we have to be united and not entertain anything, any nonsense from Ruto's faction or Gachagua's faction or Matiang'i or this corrupt yesteryear politicians. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kenyan Revolutionary. Please do me a favor before I leave. Take a moment and use your thumb or a finger, index finger or middle finger or your ring finger or your little finger, to hit that like and subscribe button and make sure that notification bell is on, so next time I come in, you can always be part of this discussion. I will leave it here. It's been 1 hour, 13 minutes. I have to leave it. I can't go over 1 hour. I'm an old man. I have to do some stuff and take care of life. Joseph Bides, thank you so much. Annie, thank you very much. I will see you guys next time. I might not be here tomorrow, but you'll see me around. You'll see me around. I might shoot a video somewhere near Matiang'i or Gachagua. Or I might be interviewing them. You never know. But hey, share, subscribe, like, comment, do all the good stuff. Francis Irungu, Omgendi from Kampala, and I see you, brother, and everybody else who's been watching on the background. Even on X, I see you guys on X. Thank you so much for watching. And everybody else who's been watching quietly on the background. And the haters who are always trying to sabotage the channel. Don't worry. We got you. But anyway, guys, thank you. Yeah. Video. That was a funny video. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace and blessings. I'm out.